Dick, how are you? Welcome to the show.
Well,
Mad
thank
Max
you.
Radio, Life 365. We have the one and only, the icon himself, actor and stuntman, Dick Warlock, joining me here for the show there tonight. How's everything going, Dick?
About as well as could be expected, you know. Yeah, everything's pretty good. I can't complain.
Man, when I look at it, how do you reflect on just your life story? Because I know you have a book on the way, and I'm looking forward to when this actually releases, and we'll get into that. But Jaws, Halloween 2, Halloween 3, Casino, last film with Spider-Man, starting out with all the Kurt Russell stunts that you've done for over 20 years, just reading about that, and starting out in the Western space too, because you did a lot of Westerns early on. How do you reflect on your entire career? Just you've done so much and been a part of some big time cinematic history.
I wanted to tell you about your resume. Actually, you've got quite a resume going for you, buddy. I mean, all the things that you've been through, the entrepreneur, and my gosh, congratulations on all your achievements. That's
Thank
that's
you.
marvelous. Yeah. I was going to do a podcast for a while, but I'm not sure. My son and I, do you know who Lance is?
I did. Yeah.
The boombox boy from
Yeah, from
Halloween
Halloween
2.
2.
Yeah, he was in Halloween 3 too. He doubled an actor in that show, if you can believe it. Anyway, we just talked yesterday via Zoom when he helped me. I was having all those troubles trying to get in here, but he and I were talking about a podcast, and he said it's just kind of falling apart. He said we don't have any help in setting it up, and so on and so forth. So I don't know if I'm going to ever do it, but anyway, if you have questions about a particular venture or venue or whatever the thing is that you want to talk about, you want to talk about stunts. You said,
Yeah, absolutely. Just all the work that you've done, and just because originally you're from Ohio, so you had to make your way out to California. And I know that's when you were kind of falling in love with the business because I think you were looking at rattlesnakes, I heard, on the road and things like that.
yeah, I was. I got a picture of me with my two guns on my hip, my little cowboy guns, and unfortunately, I didn't have a hat. But anyway, yeah, I'd watch the road as it went by for what 3,000 miles to 2,800 miles out there. Yeah, when I think back, and I've been recollecting a lot about my past, my life, and how it's changed and evolved, and it was a childhood dream come true for me to be doing this, and now that I'm kicked out of the business because I'm too old, you know, uh, that happens to you. Don't let the guy fall down anymore, and you'll break more bones. But yeah, it's been quite a trip
Falling down was how it all started for you down that hill.
down that. Boy, you have done your research, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, down that hill. Well, why didn't you just go ask the guy for a job? So I did, and after 3 weekends of traveling 50 miles one way up to Corriganville, that movie ranch in Simi Valley, California, talking to Charlie Aldrich, he finally said, "Well, you're a persistent little bastard, aren't you?" Yes, sir. So he let me be a part of it. I didn't have a job because they didn't pay me for a while, but I don't know, 3 weeks or some 6 weeks. I can't remember exactly what it was, but finally, one of the other actors said to me, he said, "Are you on the payroll yet?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Well, we can fix that." So he arranged for me to get knocked out, and they sent me to a hospital in Corrigan. But he was the first one to get to me. He says, "Is this guy on payroll?" No, he's not. He started this morning because I was 16 years old. I could have had him by the who knows where that would have gone. But anyway, that was the start. That was the start of it all.
Yeah. Persistence
Yeah,
is key because I know you had to go back a couple times, a couple weekends when
yeah,
you were like 55 miles away from being to where that was.
right, right. It was, at 3 weekends. You're talking about 110 miles every Saturday, 110 Sunday. So 3 weekends. That's a lot of money for a 16-year-old kid.
It is.
In fact, I have a tale about not having enough money for gas for the car to get out there. We lived next door to an empty lot, except for a tall tower that used to be part of a dairy.
Hmm.
And they were going to tear that down and build a school in there, which they eventually did. And alongside the house, they had some heavy equipment. Well, I was out there one night with the hose and siphoning gas to put in my car. All of a sudden the side light on the house, goes on. My mom opens the door and she's looking at me. Richard, I've taught you better than that. Plunk, shut the door. And yes, Mom. I never did anything like that again. I put the gas back in. And you know something? If she hadn't come, I'd have ruined the car because I was putting diesel into that bucket. But
Ooh.
so she saved me a car.
Yeah, the car would have been done for.
Yeah. I guess I was a feisty kid when I was younger. I don't see myself that way, but I know I was a loner. I didn't. I mean, I used to sit on the sidewalk leading from the driveway to the front porch of my grandpa's house and shoot ants with a rubber band. Is that weird? Yeah, that word's being used a lot, and then in the news I hear weird.
Yeah.
But anyway,
It definitely is a hot topic term right there. And just getting out to California and getting into the industry and just going to the Disney studios. That was interesting because you actually saw Walt Disney when you went there and because you showed them a photograph to the casting directors. But what was Mr. Disney like himself? Because that's iconic.
well, those you meet those guys, but Ollie, John Kennedy, guys like that, you get to meet them, but you don't stand there and talk about them, with them for 10, 15 minutes. But yes, I got a call to get to go to the studio, and I had no idea what was going on. It's much like when I did Green Beret. I don't know what I just got out of bed, and anyway, I went in, and it was the actual wardrobe department of the studio, and there was a lady standing there, and I walked over and started talking to her, and she said, "What's going on?" There was a desk there and a lamp and whatever, some lights and a camera, but I didn't put two and two together, and I turned around and Walt had walked in behind me and sat on his desk, and he was looking at me. So we rehearsed it one time, and he said after we finished, he said, "Come here." So I walked over there, and he looked at me, and he said, "Now you're not going to upstage me, are you?" I said, "Would I do that?" And I walked away. Well, he turned to the director, who became a good friend of mine, and second unit director, Art Vitarelli, and he said, "Get all you can get on this kid. I'm gonna make a star out of him." Who knew? I found out 8 years later about it. You could probably tell the story better than me because you've read about it, right?
Yeah, I've read a little bit about, but not to. I think you would be better to because you're the one that experienced
Yeah,
it.
yeah. So Art, 8 years later, said, "Dick, I'm going to tell you something that I should have told you earlier, but I didn't know how you'd take it." So he told me that Walt wanted to make a star out of me, and he didn't know at the time I can't act. I'm a ham, and I learned that at Corriganville. Anyway, uh, I was put on the list, I guess, because for 10 years I worked in many, many, many movies. Met Kurt Russell there. His father got me in his contract. Talked to Kurt about this guy should be your double to get you. He said, "Dad, I don't know about that." He was 17 years old. We celebrated his 18th birthday on computer wore tennis shoes. He said, "I don't know anything about that." And Bing said, "I'll take care of it." And from then on, when they called him, they called me. And there were a couple of shows I can think of, Overboard and Captain Ron, that I called somebody else and had them come in and coordinate that show because I was working with that other guy. What his last name I think was rhymes with carpet. Carpenter, John Carpenter. That's yeah. So anyway, I don't remember who I was working with, but I think it was John doing something, or Deborah on H2 might have been.
Yeah, and Escape from New York.
Yeah, well, that's where I met the both of them. Was Escape from New York. Uh, they were very nice people. Very nice people. I got along with both of them as well as you can get along with John. He's kind of he's kind of aloof. He always has been with me anyway. Uh, but because of Kurt, he figured, well, I'll use you as your coordinator. So I did that show, and then Deborah called me later for H2, which I went in for just as a stunt coordinator, and she told me I had to meet the director, and I said, "Yeah, that's fine. Where's he at?" Down the hall. So I walked down the hall, and on the way, I looked in an empty room, what I thought was empty, and there's a desk in there, and laying on the desk is that Mars mask. So she had told me briefly about it. She asked me, "Have you seen the movie H1?" I said, "No." And she gave me a DVD, or not a DVD, a VHS.
VHS.
So here, watch it. So I later on watched it, but I knew that this guy wore this thing. So I put it on my head and I walked to his door and stood there and just stared at him and just continued to stare. He said, "Who are you?" And he said, "Who the hell are you?" And I smiled and took that thing off and I said, "I'm Dick Warlock and I'm here to interview for the coordinator job." He said, "Oh, come on." And so he said, we talked a little about it. And as I got up, started to walk away, and I had the mask in my hand. I turned around and said, "Is there any reason I can't play this guy?" And he said, "If Deborah doesn't care, I don't care." So that's how I got that job. And then that led to, H3 and what was the one? I can never remember. Chris Walken was in the movie. We did it in Canada. I want to say Ravenhawk, but it wasn't that. It was Dead Zone. Dead Zone
Okay,
with Chris,
Stephen King.
Chris Walken. Yeah. And halfway through, I had a problem with the effects guy, and I was given a choice: either we cut him loose, or she said goodbye. And that was kind of the end of our relationship. That whole family was like a hub with a lot of spokes. And when I got home from that show, a period of time, a couple of weeks, the producer called me and said, "Dick," he said, "let's have lunch." So I down at a restaurant on Ventura Boulevard. And he said, "What the hell happened in Canada?" So I said, "Well, it was blah 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 and this and that," and I left. He said, "Man, he said, I can't hire you anymore." And he was Kurt's producer and brother-in-law, as a matter of fact. And he said, "A lot of strings have been cut here. You've hurt yourself." And I realized I did, because I never worked for any of them and some other people that were affiliated with them. So, I went on on Christine after that. And I came on the set, and pretty soon this guy that I knew very well, he was an assistant director. I think he was the producer on this show, or associate producer. He walks over and he said, "Dick, how are you, man?" He said, "We got too many guys here. I got to let you go." And the stunt coordinator, Terry Leonard, came and said, "They don't think you should be here. So I got to let you go, Dick." So that was the end of that. I never worked for any of them again. I see John at the shows, the conventions that we all do. And he's very nice about taking pictures with him and stuff, but that's it. That's the end of that. Now what? Moving on.
uh well, Halloween 2 was, I mean, you've been in two of my personal top favorite movies of all time, in Jaws, and we'll get into Jaws in a little bit, but Halloween 2, because we already ventured into that. And just I wanted to talk to you just not only about your portrayal as Michael Myers, because in my opinion, I think it's the best shape of the series, even though we
Everybody that talks to me says the same thing. George P. was good for this guy, and Courtney was good for that. I don't know.
I think it was, for some reason, I always liked Halloween 2 growing up the most. I don't know why, but it's just something about it and your portrayal. It's just a film that just stands alone, and it's the perfect sequel. It's the greatest horror sequel of all time. And just learning about the history of it, because I heard that John Carpenter thought the film was a little too tame, so he went and directed some extra scenes at the end. Do you remember him taking you
I
to
don't
make?
know about it. Might have been about tame. That's how my son Lance became the boombox boy. He was on the set with me those 3 days. I always thought it was one day, but he said, "Dad, it was 3 days." And we were sitting now, should I tell you about Lance and how he got that thing?
Oh, you can if you. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, I took him to the set with me, and we're sitting in the dressing room waiting for something. You know how they are, hurry up and wait. So we're waiting, and I get a knock on the door. "Come in, it's John." So he comes in, he sits down, and we're talking about the evening's work. And I said, "Who's going to play this kid that's in the script here?" And he said, "I don't know." I said, "Really? What about him?" So he looks at him, Maybe. Let me get back with you. And he did. He came back with a jacket, the radio, a cowboy hat. He borrowed all this stuff. The grip truck had the radio. Somebody wardrobe had this jacket, a hat. And anyway, Lance comes down and bumps into me. So John signs a picture. I wish your dad was as good an actor as you are. And he was quite enthralled with Lance. He said, "Boy, he listens well and did exactly what I told him to do." So yeah, Lance is a little disappointed right now. He's a little down in the dumps. But that's another story.
Oh,
Uh, my wife just handed me a note that she's got to make a hike out. She's leaving. Got
oh,
to
okay.
go check on a friend of ours. But anyway, uh, that was 3 nights, and he added to cutting here.
Oh, with the
Three
Marshall.
scenes. Yeah, and then the walk after bumping into the boombox kid down to the run, because the audience would never know how Myers found out where Laurie Strode was. So he had to put that in because the radio, then taken to the hospital, HMG or whatever it is,
Yeah.
and another couple of scenes. And anyway, it was 3 nights of shooting down there.
What's interesting about even when you look at the TV version, because with the Marshall, you have the scene where you stab him in the back, or then Loomis shoots him in one of the scenes. There was a couple different shots for that one Marshall scene.
There is.
Yeah, for there's a TV version to where I think
They
Loomis
cut out
shoots
some of
him.
the violence. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Well, that was just the walk through the window or through the glass doors. I liked it. I liked that scene. That was
I love
cool.
that.
And if you watch it, he goes boom, boom, and comes through. There's a little hesitation, but anyway, I didn't realize that John had. When I say John Zenda, he played the sheriff
Okay,
that got
yeah, yeah.
killed. Yeah, but I didn't remember doing the fall down after getting shot, uh, except one time. I don't know what they would have changed. I think a lot of the changes might have been for violence and blood, and they didn't want this or that in the TV version. You know, so every now and then I'm looking from you who are listening and watching the video off to the moderator who's sitting right next to you.
Uh,
So if that confuses you, this look back and forth, that's what it is.
no, that's okay. There's just so many iconic scenes in it, because the one that people know was when you stab the nurse with the scalpel and lift her up in the air and the shoes fall off. That's another classic scene.
Yeah, yeah, I like that one too. It's interesting because I walk up behind her and I pinched her shirt, her blouse, whatever that is, and when the special effects guys pull her up, I swear, yeah, and it looks pretty cool though, and that's the way it's supposed to happen. So it's all fake, and yeah, yeah. Gene LaBelle, was a good friend of mine. He passed away last year. They called him Judo Gene because he was the best. He taught. I think he may have had something to do with teaching or helped teach Chuck Norris and some of the other guys. And now where was I going? You got to remember now. I'm going a little wacky with the brain at my age. I'm starting. I'm in the maybe it's dementia. I don't know, but or old age.
Oh.
I don't know, one or the other. But I don't remember what I was going to say about Gene. Anyway, well, I'll stop there. I don't even remember what show we're talking about now.
Oh, well, Halloween too. We were talking about the nurse scene with the scalpel, and I did want to get into Mr. Garrett with the hammer. That's another
Oh
scene.
yeah, yeah. Well, they made a head. They made a head of Garrett for that scene, and they just plunged that hammer into it. I gave him a shot, boy. You little creep. Yep, Tom. Yeah, he was a nice guy, and I think he's still around. Uh,
Yeah.
you
I've
know.
seen him in some others. I think he was in one of the, because I remember when I was a kid, I used to watch The Incredible Hulk with Bill Bixby, and he was
Mhm.
in one of the episodes. I think it was with the Evil Hulk, because there was an episode with two Hulks, and I think he was in that episode.
Have you ever met him?
I have never met him.
No, the actor that did the Hulk.
Oh, Lou Frigno?
Hmm.
No, I have not met him.
Mm. You should go to one of his where he goes to the convention. You ought to go meet him sometime.
Yeah, that's iconic character.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, I don't know what the fellow's doing now these days. Doesn't
yeah,
matter, but I mean, I wish him well.
yeah. Back to Halloween 2 with the
Yeah,
nurse with Janet with the needle. It was interesting learning the story behind that because I heard in the scene that she hit her head and it
the
got
rehearsal.
cut.
Yeah, the rehearsal. Well, she didn't get cut, but she bumped her head pretty good.
Wow.
And I apologized. All I heard was, "Forget it, it's all over with." And then saw an interview with her, and she said, "Well, I don't know, it went on a little about me." And, so I
Oh,
don't know.
that's not fair.
Yeah,
That's
it
not.
was like when Deborah Hill said Warlock never did get the walk in H2. She was on the set every day with Dickie Smothers. They were, I guess, a couple. Uh, and she never ever, neither did she nor Rick. Rick it was fabulous. I had no idea when I met Rick, it was his first movie, you know. So anyway, uh, they never come up to me and said, "Hey, can you make the walk a little faster? It would be more menacing or whatever." And when I started that walk was in H1 after the closet scene when Myers breaks through and she sticks him in the eye with the thing and he falls down. When he raises up and turns his head like that to look at her in the doorway. And it was very mechanical the way he did it. And I thought that's about the only thing that I could put my hand in because the walk was faster and slower. It wasn't always consistent. So that's why I did it like that. And people seem to like it,
I
you know.
like it. I think it was perfect the way you did. It's creepy.
Yeah. I almost caught her that one time when she climbed through the window, though, man. I had my hand on her, man.
Oh, oh, with Jamie Lee.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was that I think I read online it was an eraser with a pencil or something like that. That it wasn't a scalpel for that scene when
And
you
which
almost
one?
for the
Which
when she's
scene?
crawling through the window. I heard that it was an eraser that you were using.
No. No. It was always a scalpel and a blade made out of tinfoil.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I wouldn't put somebody in danger of a real
Yeah,
scalpel.
no.
Yeah.
No, yeah,
But yeah,
that's
that's what it was. The effects guys made up this blade that looked pretty good too. You know.
and I do have some photos here from the film that I did want to share with the audience just watching because it really is. It looked like you just had a great time. And I know you did just hearing the reactions in interviews, but you had a great time behind the scenes in this one. That's
Oh yeah.
do you
Do you
remember
know?
this day?
Oh yeah, I remember that. In fact, I know the guy that made it, colorized it.
Wow.
Uh, and then another thing, I made a copy of it. You see that wall plug in the back?
Hmm.
I've got the exact copy of that, but the wall plug is not there
Wow.
because I took my, photo op thing and took it out. Like for the Photoshop. Only
Hmm.
I don't use Photoshop, but I'm not smart enough for that one. But that was really involved. Anyway, I took it out. It looks pretty good, but that one got out first, so that's why everybody uses it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know the guy Nick Malpagano, and he makes some fantastic duplicate masks. He's great. He's terrific. That guy, and a nice person. He's an Elvis impersonator, and when no one else can understand me, and everything I do is wrong. It's my Elvis impersonation.
You played football with him with a couple different guys too.
Well, yeah, that was on Easy Come, Easy Go. Yeah, I have to fess up. It wasn't. He asked me to go outside with him, and they were throwing a football around, but I didn't actually get into throwing the football. Right? Um, I stretched that and took a little theatrical license with the story. Uh, anyway, yeah. He was nice. He was very nice, you know,
Yeah.
and, I mean, I first heard Elvis in 1956 when a buddy of mine came over with a record. He said, "Dick, you gotta hear this guy. He's" and it was Heartbreak Hotel was the song that was on that record. And I think the flip side was I Was the One. Anyway, my sister and I kept that record for the weekend because my mom and stepdad had gone to Las Vegas. And so when she got home, we listened to it all weekend, danced around, took the rug back there. And when she came home, I said, "Mom, you got to hear this guy. They got a new singer." And so I put the record on, and she's listening to it. And she looks at Doug and she said, "Isn't this the kid that we saw in Vegas? You know, the guy with the shaky leg and the sideburns?" And he said, "Yeah, I believe it is. Yeah." Well, that's who it was because that was his first time in Vegas as a lead into a comedian, Shecky Green, up there. Well, he flop. And of course, when he went back to the Hilton for his comeback, he was. Whew. But anyway, I was a fan of his from then on.
Yeah.
I had my hair dyed, my collar up, and had my red Ford, and you know. In fact, I'll tell you a story about a show called Hutter with Fred Dryer. He was a football player. I think he played for the LA Rams and a couple other teams, but Fred was the star of the show. So one morning I get a call, I'm going to be on Hunter. Great. And I went in, I'm sitting in the makeup room waiting for them to come in, and Fred comes in and sits two chairs over. And I said, "Fred, do you know a girl named Janet Valentine?" And he said, looks at me and he said, "Yeah." And I said, "I married her." He said, "Oh, so you're the guy that thought you were Elvis?" Because I used to go to her house, and the neighbor gave us a wire recorder.
Mhm.
You talk about a wire recorder today, nobody knows what it is. The wire was as thin as three hairs put together. Really odd. But I recorded myself singing Elvis. I would play the radio or her record player, sing Elvis, and yeah, that's. I always wanted to be Elvis, but there's only one, and there's a
Well,
whole lot of good impersonators around now.
oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
Because I mean, he's iconic. Everyone's trying to
yeah.
catch fame in their own way, trying to be like him. But I mean, you became an iconic face yourself just with everything you've done. And I wanted to bring this picture up too. I think this was for the wrap up shoot. Was that
Oh
when?
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's Donald and I, and with my squinty mask. Somebody made a mask like that. But yeah, that's the wrap party. There's several of them. Me licking the cake, I mean, a knife after we cut the cake, and kissing her and giving her a little, you know. No. Yeah, there's the cake lick. Yep,
Yeah.
with Rick and Jamie's double is in there either on one side of that picture. I think it's on the right side, but maybe not.
Yeah, I do. I see it in the background behind Donald
Oh
Pleasance.
yes, that's her back there. Yeah, then Jamie's over here, right?
Yeah.
And that's Rick Rosenthal, the
The
director.
director.
Yeah.
Here's another one for you.
What a
This is,
nice fella he was or is. What was
oh
that?
yeah. And he went on to do Halloween Resurrection too.
Did he?
Yeah. He went,
I didn't know that. I haven't seen past I think part 6 or 7. I think the one with Duran. You know,
oh, H2O.
yeah, that was the last one I see. And then when the other guy, what's his name, made the H2 again and H1.
Oh, the
The
newer ones, James Jude Courtney.
no, the director.
Oh, Rosenthal.
The other director that did the remake of H1
Oh,
and
Rob
H2.
Zombie.
Rob Zombie, yeah. My son, I was going to watch it. I watched about 5 minutes, and Billy says, "You don't want to watch it, Dad. It's the language and the nudity. I mean, you're good friends with the little gal that takes her clothes off, and you won't like it." So I never watched any of those.
You're not missing anything, trust me.
Well, you know, she's a nice, sweet kid. She was going to move here to Tennessee at one time, and then she got. I guess her boyfriend changed her mind. I think they moved to Texas or something.
Oh,
You know who I'm
here's with
talking?
you and John too. I have a picture.
Oh yeah, Yeah. Now, Dick, this is the camera. It's called a camera, and it's on a tripod here, and that's the one you're looking, and that's where the film is.
You got some classic photos on that set, and you mentioned the one with. There's one outside here with Jamie Lee Curtis and you outside of the hospital.
Oh yeah, yeah. I had a crush on her. Uh, yeah, and I think had I not been married, there may have been, maybe it was brief. It, who knows? But it never. I never let it go anywhere. I let. I never let myself try to get involved. That's what it was. you know, I don't really know how she felt, but the feeling was for me that we were close. I don't know how close, but we were close. Yeah. I'm talking
Oh,
about things I've never talked about before here.
what?
You have the scissors, you can edit some of this out.
Yeah. But this is classic stories from this movie. And what's crazy, I mean, it really is an iconic piece of film because this was Dana Carvey's first film. Do you remember him being on
Oh
set? Because
yeah,
he was an
yeah. The
extra.
reporters in the house said, I'm going to scoot this over here like this and change that just a little. Excuse me, folks. I'm trying to do a little editing here to make it more comfortable for both of us, I think, and you especially. Uh,
There we go.
Oh, is that cooler?
Yeah.
I mean, now I look like I'm talking to you, don't
Yeah.
I? What a nice guy you are. I
Oh,
love your
thank you.
smile, man. You got a great smile.
Uh,
You don't look like your picture on the phone.
oh, really?
Yeah, you got to
Wow.
take one like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got a big smile on your face, and you're a very handsome guy. You should put because it's kind of thin.
Yeah.
Yeah, put another one in. Take my advice, and I'll get you in trouble.
Oh, yeah, Dana Carvey was there. Just a really classic piece of film when you look back on it and just learn about all the trivia that's going on there. And how close did you ever? Because I remember you went to the screening afterwards, but did you ever stay in touch with Donald after or any of the other
No,
people on the set?
no, never. I never saw Jamie after that day with the kiss and
Wow.
the knife licking. Never saw her again. And until we started doing the conventions,
Hmm.
I now I see Rick and his wife. Uh, she played the gal that was in the car when I turned the police car around and came back. Yeah, she was in the car with me for that. But no, I didn't see any of them.
Wow. The hot tub scene, everyone remembers that one.
Oh, I don't know about the top hot tub. What hot tub scene? I didn't
The
see any.
the the tub scene in Halloween
Oh,
2.
that one, that one. I got to tell you though, I never saw those. Though I didn't. I was behind her the whole time, and mm, But then when I saw the movie, I said, "Oh wow, nice nose." But yeah, she's a kick. Nurse Karen.
Yeah, you nailed the role, even the walk. Because we talk about the walk, but the one that really nailed it for me was when you're going down the stairs. Because you never looked down. That's how you made him supernatural. You just kept a straight face, didn't even look down when you were walking down the stairs.
I did a commercial as Myers for a local uh, uh, company that puts bars on your house for safety. You
Hmm.
know, and I'm going around to different gates and stuff trying to get in, and I can't get in, and I get all frustrated. And uh, there we go again. Oh, gone. Maybe it'll come back. What were we talking about?
It was for the commercial that you did.
Oh yes, a whole commercial for him. I got to get these things out of the way of these podcasts or something because I'm not going to be around to be able to,
Oh, don't say that. You're gonna be a while. You're gonna be
no, I
around
may
for a
be
while.
alive, but I just won't remember it.
Oh.
you know, it's terrible. I get so frustrated. My wife and I read devotions, Bible and some other little literature in the morning every morning, and it's getting to where I can't. I have trouble reading it without screwing the words up, and
Oh,
it's, I just a buddy of mine, another stunt guy, Ted White, who played Jason in part 3, I believe, or
oh,
yeah,
it was 4.
4, 4. Yeah, Big Ted, what a nice guy, but he just went out with Alzheimer's, and I was gonna call Jerry, his wife, and ask her if she could help me what the experience was for somebody's on the other side, like Kathy, my wife. You know, I don't know. Poor me. Let's go on. Move on.
Uh, and they let you keep the mask and the scalpel and all that after the film?
Yeah, I went up to Deborah and I said, can I have this? And she said, take it all. We're never going to do another movie with that guy. Little did she know he was the star of the show.
Yeah. They brought him back again, again, and
Yeah,
again.
yeah. So yeah, she gave it all to me, and I did a show, a haunted house up in Tiffin, Ohio, with a fellow up there, and he was interested. He wanted to buy it. So I said, "Well, I'll sell it to you, and I'll throw in all the stuff." He only wanted to buy the mask, and I said, "Oh, I got the coveralls and the boots and the scalpel and the knife. And I'll just throw it all in." Boy, what a mistake that was for me. Good deal for him. And it was 5 years later. He gave me a deposit, and 5 years later, he came down to the house from Tiffin, and he paid me the rest of the money and carried it home with him. And I said, now, in 5 years, this has deteriorated. All this taking it on and off and using this part
Mhm.
has gotten it in bad shape. The thing where the needle was sticking in, that fell out. That was a double size. It was like a tire patch that they used to hold it, the needle. And anyway, that had fallen out, and it was the nose when we moved from California to here, Kathy and I.
Mhm.
She packed it, but she didn't know that by packing it with other stuff, it would push the nose over. So if you ever see what it looks like now,
Mhm.
there are photos of it out there on, and you notice the nose is not like I got it, but it's just a little bit off like that. And I don't remember which side. I think it's that side. See, with these things, I don't know which way you see me.
Yeah,
But
it's
anyway,
the opposite sometimes, yeah.
yeah. Anyway, yeah, he came and got it, and I went up at least once, but I think twice to his haunted house in Tiffin, which is beautiful. It's a two-story building, and you go up in a big elevator. It was one of those warehouses that has that kind of stuff, and it's behind a beer bar that he has, a bar, but it's a great haunted house. And then he went over to Toledo and bought a double tractor trailer, and he has that haunted house going. So I go up 2 times to the haunted house in the building, and just sign autographs and talk to them and take photos with the stuff. And why did you sell it? I hear a lot of that. Why did you sell it? I said, well, I didn't know how far this was going to go. I didn't know anything about conventions and stuff until I was doing a Married with Children, if you're familiar with that show.
Don
Uh,
Shanks.
yeah, and another stunt guy, John Moyle, he says, oh no, it wasn't John Moyle, it was Don Shanks.
Yeah, for Halloween 5.
Yeah, Don, I'd never met him before, and he said, "How come you?" Oh, first he said, "So you're Dick Warlock?" Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah. I said, he said, "How come you don't come to the conventions with us?" What conventions? So he proceeded to tell me about you meet the fans and you sign your autograph and it's cool and they're all great. I said, well, I don't know. I'll think about it. So I thought about it for a year, and I get a call from Tony Timpone. I think he was the CEO of Fangoria magazine at the time. And he said, you're hard to get a hold of, guy. And so he said, but now that I got you, we're doing a show in Los Angeles down at the airport at a hotel so and so. Would you like to be a part of it? And I said, what does it entail? He said, well, if you got any props, pictures, whatever, bring them along, and we'll show you where to go. You got a table there to work at, it's blah blah. So I go down there and I've got the dummy. I got a dummy in the basement with all this. They got the coveralls on them, knife, scalpel, head. Oh, what a miserable time I had. Everybody wanted to feel it, take it off, and oh, I only one time. That was it. Never took it back. And but that was my first show. This was about 20 some odd years ago, 25, 7, something like that.
Wow. But Halloween 2 for the ending, because I did well, the reason why I brought you on was to talk to you about your stunts. But the fire stunt, I know you did that twice. Was that the most difficult
Well,
stunt for
well,
your
well,
career?
well my son Lance or Billy was there as he's an actor as well. He did Baywatch and a lot of stuff. So Google Billy Warlock and you'll see what I'm talking about. Not that. He said, "Dad, you only did the burn once. You rehearsed it twice." Oh no, that's the fact then. That I did it. I did it once. But it was
Wow.
yeah, I burned my arms. I got a photo of that sitting in a chair with the doctor putting some kind of just little strips where I had zippers in the suit and it got a little hot. And so anyway, yeah. To those that I said twice, I apologize.
So it
Uh,
was first, just one time.
just
That's
one time.
wow.
It's not my first burn. I mean, I did a lot, well, as good in Firestarter at the end. You know, that the hairy thing about that burn was that we did it on the sound stage and a ceiling. Not only did the set have or did the building have a ceiling, the set had a ceiling, and the fire comes up and then rolls down the ceiling, and that's it. It got hot quick. Usually they're done in an area mainly outside where you can the flames don't get as hot because they dissipate into the air quicker. But anyway, yeah, that was that was enjoyable. I like that. Yeah,
That's it.
I did the same thing on Hindenburg, the movie Hindenburg. Jack Verbois and I, another stunt guy. He actually played Bennett Tramer in
Okay,
H2.
and Halloween 2 with
Yeah,
the car.
yeah. He played Tramer. Uh, and we were the only two, I think, that were in the nose cone when we shot it. They lit us on fire and we jumped out. And I've done four. I can't remember what they were, but anyway,
I'll take it to the scene before the explosion, though, with the gunshots to the eyes, because I heard that you had a tube hooked up to the mask, and then the blood came down when you squirt it right on as soon as they called it.
you want me to tell you about that? How to do
Yeah.
that? Well, there's a squeeze ball that comes to a point, and it was similar to and then they hooked uh, what's the plastic tubing called? You know what I'm talking about? The
Yeah, it's the
plastic
clear
that you can,
tube.
yeah, right, because it's flexible.
Mhm.
So they hooked that on there, and it came to the back of my neck and hooked on to, if I remember correctly, copper tubing that came up and then split and stopped right up here. So on cue, I squeezed it, and the stuff squirted out and came down. And that's how we did that thing. I
Wow.
hated it. I hated this thing. The effect. I can do this all day long with anything, and it doesn't go. But I did not like that scene. I hate it.
What was your
So there's a
favorite
lot of
scene?
people that man, I love that scene. I love that scene. And well, yeah. Anyway,
What was your favorite scene as Myers?
the hot tub scene.
The hot tub.
Yeah, the whole thing and killing Leo, and he I didn't like Leo after he sang that song anyway. Oh yeah, he's a good guy, man. He
Oh,
Yeah, we always we have a blast together. We try to sit together at the conventions because I like Leo. He's got
yeah,
a great wife too.
yeah.
They're very very sweet people.
But not only were you in Halloween 2, you were also in Halloween 3 as the assassin. I did want to get into the assassin character because I remember being a kid, and one scene that always lingered with me was when with the Starker, because I wanted to know what the effect was when you rip off the guy's head, which was insane.
Just before that, the car pulls up out front and then backs up and so on. That was Lance. Lance was doubling an actor. They put him on a little cushion, raised him up, and put a suit on him. So he was in part one and part two. Anyway, or two and three. Uh, yeah, that guy is the guy that brought him out and held him while I did the took his hat off and ripped his, ripped his head off. That was it was different. I had fun doing that one too. Just because of doing something that's silly. I mean, in the movie it wasn't silly; it was gory, But when the blood and goose blown out everywhere, the effects guys did a great part. I mean, a great job at all that stuff. And we depend so much on props and effects with stunts, and in
Mhm.
some cases wardrobe when it has to. You have to do things with the wardrobe too, but the effects departments that I've worked with, except for that one on what was it? The
Halloween
one with
3?
Chris Walken,
Oh,
Dead
Dead
Zone
Zone.
with Dead Zone. Yeah, uh, it was just difficult. You know, he's got a story and I have a story, and I left. But anyway, now I'm lost.
Yeah, oh, we're at the
Lost and
assassin.
alone on some forgotten highway.
we're at the ass-
Remembered by yeah, traveled by many, remembered by few. Go ahead.
we're at the we're at the assassin character because we talked about the Starker scene, but when you have the fight with Tom Atkins' character, is that what comes out of the mouth there? Is that frozen orange juice? Is that what was used?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, what else would I stick in my mouth?
Yeah.
Yeah, when the talk about the orange stuff first came out on my website, I put anybody that can tell me what that orange stuff was, I'll give them a free photo. What a mistake that was! I quick cut that off. I mean, everybody then knew what that it was. It was frozen
Yeah.
orange juice. But and people to this day still ask me about that. That camera thing turns. I apologize to you guys that are at home when you're trying to look at your screen and it goes all wonky.
Oh, you're fine.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, frozen orange juice. That was who was that? I was boy, I'm forgetting names. He just passed away. Lauren James. That was the Lauren James that was doubling Atkins, Tom. There's a story that the director of photography always likes to tell about me. There's a scene where the car is coming at the camera and it turns like this and goes past the pole.
Mhm.
Well, they were all standing there and they're thinking, well, we should talk about where we're going to go if he gets out of control and hits the pole or whatever. And it's the smart thing to do when so split or all go one direction. I would say go this way. So I come sliding on a well, it was a little gravel right there, come transversing from the highway to the dirt, the poles here. I came down, just clipped it. And Dean Cundy was the director of photography, and he tells the story. Tommy Lee Wallace, the director, and actually did most of Myers in the first movie, incidentally. People, you know that, right?
Yeah, with the
Not,
closet scene.
yeah. Well, more than that, when he
Yeah,
stuck the
the
guy up
knife
to the
in the
wall,
kitchen.
anything that had action with it or props, he was the guy.
Yeah.
He fell down, and Nick got up at the side of the bed. Those kind of things. But yeah, then I slammed the car into the tree. But and she was riding with me. Uh, oh shit, what's
Oh,
her
is that
name?
Stacy Nelkin?
Yes, stay. Forgive me, Stacy, if you ever see this. I'm going wacko, but anyway.
uh
Yeah, I have a great time with Tommy Atkins too. I mean, not Tom Atkins, but him too. But Tommy Lee Wallace at the conventions. I got to cut this off, and I don't know how to do that. Oh yeah, I can't be bothered right now. Georgetown. I don't know anybody in Georgetown, but
uh
maybe I'd like to. But
yeah.
anyway, am I making a? Am I doing this okay for you? I
Yeah,
mean,
you're
I'm
doing it
having a
perfect.
great time on that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, I think it's great. You're telling all these stories about just things that I haven't heard about behind these films because it is cinematic history and you've been a part of it. And the horror fans love it, and just movie fans love hearing these stories and anything that you have been through. Because I mean, Halloween 3 was, I know it's gained a lot of fandom since when it came out. Because I know a lot of people were disappointed that it wasn't Michael Myers. And I always say, why did they expect Michael Myers? Because he burned up in the hospital at the end of 2, and then that's why
Yeah.
they went on with 3, and John Carpenter wanted to make the anthology series, and it's grown on to be a cult classic now.
Yes, yes, yes. It has. It's a movie. When people initially asked me about it, I said it's a good standalone movie.
It
Don't put
is.
it down. It's just doesn't have Myers, but it's a good little story. You know, leave it alone, and they do now. They've accepted it as what it is.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know what makes it so good, but
Unique.
anyway,
It's unique.
it's not frozen orange juice. I can guarantee you that.
Well, because I heard about George Wilbur and Tom Morga. Those were the guys that would go on to portray Myers in part 4. But Mustafa Akkad did, because people did want to bring you back, but he wanted someone that was like Jason. Now, I wanted to take it to H2O. Is it that they called you to be a part of the film for H2O?
As I understand it from my wife, Kathy was at home. I was gone. Phone rings. Hello, yeah, this is so and so from Halloween 3. I mean, 8, 7. I think it was. We're shooting the movie 7, and we know that Dick did Myers in 2, and so on. And he told her that they wanted me, if I was interested, to redo re what do you call it?
Reprise the role.
Yeah, reprise the role. So she said, "I'll have him call you. I'm not sure when he'll be back, but I'll have him call you." So about 20 minutes later, he calls back, and he said, "I got some bad news. Is he home?" And she said, "No, but I'll tell him you called." No, you don't have to. We've gone over the conversation. We have too much film on Chris Duran. We don't like the mask. That's what they wanted. They wanted the mask. They didn't want me. Uh, but we got that, and we've already invested a lot of money in him, so we're going to continue on with him. So that was the essence of that whole story. Was they would have taken me probably if I'd have been home, and maybe not. Maybe not. I may have gone down to the studio and I said, "Hey, Dick, we rethought it. And, here's a day's pay." Maybe.
Their loss. At the
Yeah.
end of the day, it's their loss.
No,
Like,
it's not. It really isn't because uh, there's a lot of years in there, and my physically changed too.
okay,
And
yeah.
yeah, I mean, like I was 5'9.5" when we shot that movie, and I bought the boots and the coveralls, incidentally. Uh, and I put a cork insole in the shoe, which raised me up
Mhm.
to 6 foot, which is what Nick was. Only with the boots on, I guess Nick might have been a little taller. But either way, no, I'm not that same guy. I won't be the same guy next week. So no, they did the right thing.
I
The
get
only
what you're
thing is
saying.
uh, they should have used the same person all the way through if they could. Just one right after the other. They keep changing up the actor that did Myers. Like when I saw George Wilbur, we're all a member, or not all. I shouldn't say that. There's 3 or 4 of us that are member of the Stuntmen's Association,
Mhm.
and I saw him at the office one day, and he was talking about, or somebody else was talking about George being in H4. I said, huh. So I said, "So you did Halloween 4?" And he said, "Yeah, yeah." I said, "Did you watch 1 and 2?" And he said, "I don't care what the hell you guys did." Really? He said, "No, I don't care." And it was Tom Morgan did about 15 minutes of the movie, and there was somebody else, and I don't remember who they did it, but did a few scenes, and then Wilbur. Wilbur is shorter than Morga, taller than me, and God rest his soul. George is a good Christian man and that I love. I'm a Christian. I'm a believer. But that neither here nor there in this conversation. But yeah, he was the rat. He was brother rat. He was going out there in a place in New Jersey doing these conventions for about a year and a half before I at the office. Somebody says, "How was the conventions?" I said, "What?" To him. But I heard them talking to me. Well, uh, he said, "Yeah, I've been going out for about a year and a half and making good money, staying by himself." He was the only one that was out there, and everybody wanted
Wow.
his autograph. But anyway, that's when we started at $10, I think.
Yeah. And I do have the photos of you and Tom Morga here.
Oh yeah, yeah. The director took this photo of Halloween 5. I was the coordinator, and I hired Tom to be Jason on that thing. And one night it wasn't too busy. I went home and got the costume, brought it back, and there's a shot out there of the director standing behind us. You won't see that one, I don't think, but standing behind us as well, the two of us and the director back there. And he only directed one movie, as far as I know. He was a good friend of Stan Winston's.
Friday the 13th, part 5.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, lots of history there. I'm telling you, just with everything with the franchise going on. I did want to ask you before we get into Jaws, because I know you were big on the Abbott and Costellos and Frankenstein's growing up.
Yep.
What was your scariest movie that you saw? What was one that terrified you, if any?
I don't know that any of them scared me.
Mm.
My favorite movie, and you can't put it in with Frankenstein and Dracula and the Wolfman, was Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Okay, yeah,
Uh,
Universal monster.
Yeah, I got his head over there in the stand. He's over there. Anyway, you can't see back there because I got the back end blurred. It's a mess. My office is a mess. It's a mess.
Oh,
Anyway, uh, yeah, but that's what was out. And I also like the East Side Kids or the Bowery Boys. It was the same group, Muggs McGinnis, and this thing slipped me again. I wish I could figure that out. Slid it over, son of a gun.
there we go.
Yeah, yeah. Pretty soon I'll be off the picture, which may be a good thing. But anyway, yeah, that was my upbringing. Is those creature films? The creature films they had. There's 4 of them, I think, or 3 at least. First one's always, the
The best
best, I
one.
think, of anything. It's like Jaws. That's the best one. Halloween. That's the best one. The first one. All that stuff. It's always the first one. You can mess
You
around with sequels, but I thought Halloween 2 was a good sequel.
I agree. I think
I
it's
mean,
the best sequel.
people ask me about, what was the ramp where you fell off the front of the porch there with the ramp to get up over the thing? And I said, well, Jimmy Winburn, who did it in the original, went off the back of the house where the railing was only about like this. Mine was a little higher and it hit me right there. And so I would hit and I would go over and end up face first down. Boom. So the first time I did it, the only time I did it before we actually did it, I said, "You're gonna have to build me a ramp of some kind." And I figured it would still leave me this, but it didn't. It was almost nothing there. So I just waltzed up, fell off the thing into a bunch of cardboard boxes with a tarp on it.
And that's history right there. You mentioned Jaws before. I wanted to get into that because you were Richard Dreyfuss's stunt double for the cage scene, and
Yeah,
I have heard you in the past say that you would have rather had a real shark because the mechanical one was so tough to push.
I couldn't push it. Thousands of pounds. You know, it was operated by Whitey Crumb around the side of the tank, doing this with Spielberg is here if we're that's the camera. I mean the cage, and Whitey's around over here saying, "Hey, move left, right, move its mouth," and Whitey's trying to get all this stuff going, and you know, it's like using one of these, and that's what he was using, the same thing, you know. Anyway, the second time I think or something, the shark broke through the cage and punched it, knocked the regulator out of my mouth. And I got it back, you know, but I signaled to Freddie Zendar, who was sitting up there yapping with some people while I was down here. Anyway, I reached back and got it back, and everything was cool. I made a little story out of that one too. I almost lost my life there. Yeah. Excuse me, folks. Can I take a sip of this?
Yes, you can.
I know Jesse Waters on that Fox network. He said one time, "Guys that drink with straws are sissies or something." Hang it your ear, Jesse.
uh
I like Jesse.
how eerie was it seeing that shark underwater? Because I always think about how the claustrophobicness of that, and just it's eerie seeing, even though it's fake, it's eerie.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that was a monster thing. He was that big around, you know, and the teeth in a real shark. I watch this Shark Week, and I watch a lot of YouTube, and I watch those kind of things. And the real shark's teeth don't look anything like what Bruce had. Bruce's teeth were like this. I took my son down to the location at the in the pool that we used for that thing, and he managed to get one of the teeth out of a bucket that were sitting on the side of, you know, they had ready-made teeth in case one fell out while they were shooting. Anyway, he's got that as a memo. That was Lance, and yeah, it Dick Dick the guy that doubled Quint. I can't Dick, and he's hired me on Police Story, Policewoman. We've been together at the office a dozen and a half times, and my name. I mean, his name is escaping me right. See, escaping. I don't pronounce my words right anymore.
Oh.
It's just pisses me.
Uh, with
Anyway,
with that scene, now did you play it all the way through to where you were swimming at the bottom too? They let you finish that scene out?
no, they did that on location.
Okay.
Yeah, they did that on location. And there was a fellow, one of the crew members did the eye thing.
When the
Yeah,
shark is hitting the cage and yeah.
yeah, the eyes. Yeah, that was a crew member, as I understand it. It may have been done at the script ladies, no, the editor, her house, because they did like the face falling through of the guy in the boat when Hooper gets off
Oh,
his
Ben
boat.
Gardner.
Yeah, Ben Gardner had. They did that in her swimming pool. Uh, that's all Hollywood magic. You know what
It
I
is.
mean?
How do you
Yeah.
feel about today's? Because you come from the magic era of Hollywood where everything was real effects and put a lot of hard work, to now everything is CGI. So what do you think about just how the industry has changed since you've really started, and just during that era where everything was effects, real effects?
Are you familiar with Red Dead Redemption
Oh, the video
2?
game.
Yeah, I played that a lot. I played it before I came on this thing today.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I play it a lot with my son Lance. He's in Washington State, and I'm over here, and we're just uh, that's a kind of CGI. They got the suits on with all the buttons, and they video the actors moving around. And like the guy that plays one of the characters says, he always wears his guns because it made him feel more like the part or whatever. That came out good. If you've ever seen any of those, it's the best video game visually that I think is, and a lot of people think the same way, that that's the best video game visually that ever been out, more realistic than anything else. Uh, CGI in the movies, I'm not thrilled with it
Mm.
because everything is too big. It's okay in Texas because everything's bigger in Texas, you know. but it is. It's over the top. Some of the things that they do, and they were getting into some real good stuff, especially with cars. The way Hal Needham had put together a device, and a very simple. It's a tube that he would take a piece of telephone pole and stick it up in the tube, and there was an ignited explosion that would push the tube down. Well, when that was pushed down, the car would go over. And Gary McClarty on a John Wayne movie where he played a detective did a 13 roll car roll as a result of this pipe. It's not a pipe ramp. It's a can't even think of the name of it. But anyway, it's a device that was made. Hal Needham is the one that came up with it, and it worked great. Those kind of things I thought were good. Uh, More people got hurt using that kind of stuff. Hal, when he tested out in the Mojave Desert, he broke his back because the way it was positioned in the car, it went straight up. The car, I mean, it would just boom rather than lifted one side and blowing it over. You know. Anyway, no, I'm not a fan of CGI. I think there may be a place for it. It's like AI. I think there's a place for AI, but it bothers me. It scares me a little bit to what they can do on America's Got Talent one night. Have you ever watched that show?
Yes, I've seen that on there.
Yeah. Did you see the one where these four people came out and the first one was doing Elvis Presley, and then they changed the different, you know, the guests in the set background singers, and they were watching themselves on that and those kinds of things. And there's what they're doing with it now as far as Elvis goes is Elvis impersonators. They're taking them and their movements and they're putting Elvis's face on it. They can put Putin's face on your body. They can put my face on a monkey. You know what I mean? And make it look like it's real.
Yeah.
It's fantastic what they can do with it, and it's exciting. But it unless it's reined in somehow, it's really gonna get to where this group is gonna hurt this group with CGI to make them think, well, this group's telling the truth. No, they're not. You know. So anyway, that's my feelings on AI, and but the tricks that they're using. Uh, what's happened is in the beginning of that, the stunt guys didn't get any residuals for the working on the movies as riggers. In other words, they're doing all the wire work and making Tom Cruise look fantastic. And if truth be told, the wires that Tom is being lifted and pulled and pushed with are all digitally taken out. And it looks like he's doing all of it. Somebody said that jump with the motorcycle off the cliff, and goes down and blows it out, and there's a helicopter, not a helicopter, but a parasail or something, parachute. That he did that. And he
Yeah.
just did a thing at the Olympics where he came in and jumped out of a helicopter or something, an airplane, and then rappelled on a rope down to come into the stadium. Wow, man, he's a ballsy guy. I got to
He
tell you,
is.
he'd have made a good stunt guy, and I think he would enjoy that. But he puts himself at risk.
He does.
But yeah, yeah,
Brave, very brave for him to do that. Not a lot of people do that, and it is interesting just to see how things have changed in the industry over the years. Not just like you said with AI and with CGI and everything, but just the movies as a whole. Because you've said in the past that the movies that you've done look like TV films compared to today. I think the gore is too excessive now. I
I
think they
do
rely
too.
too much on gore.
Yep, yep, absolutely. You can't, and I guess the fans are the ones that are digging it because they're
Yeah,
buying them. They're buying the movies and stuff. And uh, I don't. That's what they're growing up with. The little black and white Abbott and Costello with Frankenstein. They're just not getting it. You know, you put that on the air, they say, "Oh, geez, take that thing off." So
It's
yeah, it
classic.
is. It is what it is. And I started to talk about the residuals. Now it's in the contract that they don't have to go in front of the camera and fall down and hurt themselves constantly, roll a car over, fall off a horse, or knock each. They're getting the residuals for rigging the stuff that the actors are now able to do, which I think is great. You know,
I agree.
yeah,
I wanted to get into your book because Kane Hodder wrote a book with somebody,
I
and
read
they,
that.
yeah,
Yeah,
and you read his book, and he's
yeah.
plays Jason for the people that know out there, and
Jesse
just don't
Wayne
know.
did the same thing. Jesse, you know of Jesse Wayne's book?
No, I don't. I don't have that.
You probably don't know his name, right?
No.
Okay. Jesse started in Corriganville. At, I was leaving to move on when Jesse and another guy came in as partners, and Jesse got into the guild as Mickey Rooney. You know Mickey Rooney?
Okay, yeah. So
Yeah,
this was his double.
he was his double. And it started on Mad, Mad, Mad World. If you remember that, there's a lot of actors in that. Anyway, he went on to do real well. Uh, what was I going to say about that? I get so irritated, folks.
Oh,
I'm telling you. Anyway,
yeah. It's about
not,
we were getting into the book with Kane Hodder, and that they
oh,
approached you to do the book, and I was going to ask you the update on the book on your life story and when we can expect the release from it, perhaps.
you know that there's a lot of confusion for me personally. These two fellas that I met in 1984 came to the set of Firestarter with another fellow. They invited me to come to their house. So I went into each house that night after we finished shooting, and I met all their parents, all six of them, and we ended up eating pizza and soft drinks, some kind, and watched their home movies. They made video home horror movies, you know. Well, in 1908, I think it was, one of them, Kevin, came to a convention and reintroduced himself, and he had changed in all those years, you know. Uh, but to bring it up to date, he was a videographer now with NBC, and he does most of the little bits and pieces in NASCAR racing when they interview a driver or something. He's the videographer for that stuff. He works for NBC. He said, "I want to come to your house." They both came to my house. Where there was John and Kevin, and John, who back in that day, well, I'll go back to Kevin. Kevin, when I said, "What do you guys want to do?" Kevin says, "I want to be a cinematographer." Okay. He didn't end up being a cinematographer. He ended up being a videographer for a lot of commercials and things like that and NBC. And then John, he wanted to be a stunt guy. Well, he not only became a stunt guy, he became a stunt coordinator and a second unit director. He's doing great. Well, they came to my house one time, not long ago, about a year, a little over a year, I guess. And Kevin says, "I want to do a videography of your life." And John said, "I think we ought to do a book, and Kevin and I want to write it with you. We want to put it all together, and we'll all benefit some from it." So that's how that started. I'm still giving pieces for the videography, which is complete now. But putting all this stuff together, little stories like I'm telling you, if you get the book, you're going to see some of the same stuff, only it may be two times at the Fireburn. No, I corrected it. But anyway, and the football would never mind. Uh, the thing is, it's not going as fast. John is the coordinator now, so he's got a TV show, and he works a lot down in Wilmington. He doesn't work on the West Coast; he's all East Coast. And Kevin he's back with another company. NBC laid him off with the NASCAR thing, so it's slowed down a lot. And I wasn't very forthcoming with stories or pictures in the beginning, and I'm getting a lot better, but a lot of time has passed. So this brings you up to date. It's not going to be ready tomorrow or next week.
Mhm.
Uh, for a premiere date or whatever you want to call it, I can't give that to you because I don't know. He's trying to find a publisher that's not going to rob us blind and get 60%, and nothing like that, which is, I guess, is hard to find, and he's having trouble. So that's where that's at. That's why the book has not been out, and I've even talked. I'm not talking about it anymore. I think I still have an ad for it on the website, but anyway, I bet I'm bored the heck out of you tonight, haven't I?
No,
No,
absolutely
no,
not. No.
no. Anyway, it's you folks I want to please too, because
Yeah.
that's why he's having me on. See, just so I can make you yawn and fall asleep.
No, you're not. You're you're entertaining us just with these stories. You really are. It's your life
I
story.
hope so.
You have a
I hope so.
fascinating story. It really is. When I look at
Yeah,
your body of work, and I was going to bring that up because I mean, with Muhammad Ali, that story, you getting knocked
yeah,
down,
yeah,
shaking hands
yeah,
with JFK, being on the
yeah.
set of Casino or Robert De Niro, and I mean, you've
Yeah,
been all over the place. Spider Man with Tobey Maguire. You were in that scene on the balcony. You've been
yeah.
around the probably some of the biggest films ever made.
Well, that's I like that idea.
Yeah, it's true.
Jaws, the residuals for Jaws still come pumping in every Shark
I
Week.
I could imagine.
The other ones have dropped off a lot. Now, I get them for 80 cents. In fact, I'd probably get three or four a year for a penny. For a penny. And you can imagine the paperwork involved and the stamp alone to
Damn,
send
why
that
even
penny
send it?
check to me. And when I take them to the bank to deposit them, then they go, "Oh, some of your penny residuals again, huh? You're living off of that, are you, pal?"
Uh,
So, well, I
uh.
don't know how long you want this to run.
Oh yeah, I think we're approaching the end here. I think we've covered everything about
Yeah,
just pretty much about your whole life story and conventions, your experiences on Halloween 2, Halloween 3, and Jaws, and we went through a
yeah.
lot.
Yep. Firestarter was another good one, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, there've been some good ones. Firestarter didn't make the big boom that some of the other movies have made. I don't go to conventions for Firestarter or anything like that. But well, the 10 years at Disney were like going to college.
Mhm.
That was a fascinating place. I remember one time Walt was walking ahead with me with two guys headed to the building where his office was, and he stopped and he looked down, and as he was stopped, so I was still walking, and I got close enough to hear him say, you know, and it was a cigarette butt. He said, if this was a dime or a quarter, so you wouldn't be laying there. And he picked it up and put it in his pocket. And then he walked about 10 or 15 feet and went up the steps. But yeah, he would come on the set once in a while. How you doing? Is everything all right? Going well? So, yeah. Stan Winston, you know Stan Winston?
I've
You know
heard
who
of
he
them.
is? Yeah, he's a two or three time Academy Award winner for his makeups. I mean, he did Terminators. He
Okay.
did, yeah, he did The Abyss. He did,
You were on the Abyss too.
yeah, yeah. That was good. The one scene that I liked, but I regret not doing what I'll explain to you here. There's a scene where I'm under a cot when the whole thing starts going amok, and that's where they find me dead, and I'm under a cot, and little geek comes down and focuses on the upper part of my body. I guess I haven't seen the movie in a long time, but instead of dying with my eyes open, I didn't. I should have. I look back at all that kind of stuff over the years. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night thinking about a mistake I made, an apology I know I owe to someone, a falsehood that I kind of it's like there's only two that I can think of, and I just told you what they were. Anyway, forgive me, Lord, forgive me for being a fibber.
Uh,
Anyway, I've enjoyed this. I've
uh
enjoyed this. Yeah.
Thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate it, Dick. And how do you spend your Halloween? Because I know you celebrated when you were a kid, carving pumpkins with your mom. I heard about that, and just
yeah.
celebrating with your kids. How do you celebrate today?
We stay home as much as possible,
Mhm.
and we once in a while I'll dress up as Myers. Once in a while, because Ken Hurtline, I think it was Ken that made it duplicate coveralls for me, and of course I've got some boots that are the same brand as the ones I had in the movie, and I got a mask that Ken Hurtline's mask is as close to the original as I've ever seen, and I'll do that, or I'll wear another costume. Sometimes I don't do anything. We just hand out the candy. Everybody knows not who Dick Lemming is that lives on this street, but Michael Myers lives there. You know, and it's not Dick Warlock, and it's Michael Myers lives there. And they come from all over the place.
Wow,
They bring their kids, and friends, and it's really cool. We get
it
about
is.
50 or 60 a year, and that's not a whole lot, or for the day, for the night. No, that's not a whole lot, but it's enough. Yeah, we make bags and you know give that out. I was a guest. Uh, ooh, yeah, I judged the costume contest
Okay.
last year. Yeah, yeah. How do you? I mean, to anyway. Shit. But I'll do things like that.
Yeah.
I live a very quiet life. I'm really pretty much of a loner. I don't go out a lot. I don't have a lot of buddies. I have a couple of guys that I go to breakfast with or lunch every other week. It's one lunch or breakfast, and really school teachers. One's I think a dean, uh, and the other one's a coach. So it's all school related. Uh, they're all retired. I'm, like me. My last show was it was for 28 days, 28 days. Do you recall who was at the star of that? The lady?
I do not recall.
Okay.
Yeah.
No biggie. Anybody at home can look it up. 28 days. And I did a little thing where she plays it, she's drunk, and she puts her child on an upside down coffee table and slides her down the driveway that comes down into the street. And I'm coming by in a car, and it's a near miss. So we timed it out. It worked, and it worked well. And that was my last job, and that was only because it was Tennessee, and the guys that hired me, Dan Behringer, he saved money for the company because they didn't have to pay me except to come to work. I had to drive myself, no room, no airplane fare, so it worked out pretty well for all concerned. You know.
Sounds
Anyway,
good. Yeah.
I'll let you go.
Yeah,
I'd,
Dick. I
I'd
want
stay
to
here all
thank you.
night if I had more stories, but I don't
Yeah,
know that
no,
I do.
Dick, I want to thank you for coming on the show. It's been a true honor to just go over your life story and everything that you've accomplished. It's been a true honor.
Uh, how can I see this?
I can send it to you. I can send it to you with a link to your email, and I'll share it with you.
Well, thank you. I
Yes.
appreciate that. I can share it then with my kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Like
Yeah.
I say, Billy and I, we communicate, but we're not as close. He's more Hollywood than I am.
Oh,
I'm not. I'm not. Never have been. I don't have a lot of. In fact, I probably only have one or two friends in Hollywood or maybe four. Yeah, Dade and Denny, and yeah, a couple others. But I'm not. I didn't hang out with the Hollywood group or anything, like that.
yeah.
Better man for it, probably. But okay.
All
I
right.
wish you well, my friend, my new
I do.
friend.
I do wish you well too. Anytime you want to come back on the show, once you do release the book and everything you got going on with your life story, I'd love to watch it and
Now
read
you
everything you
you
got on the
folks know
way.
what kind of book it is. It's a tabletop book. It's not a small, biography book. It's a tabletop. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
and with pictures and comments and little side stories, interspersed around, sprinkled in there. And it's a lot of what I told you. So you may be disappointed. Well, hell, I already talked to him about that. Eh, So
I'll still read it.
yeah, yeah, I'll autograph it for you. No charge. All
uh,
right, I'm gonna check out of here.
all right,
Go
Dick.
back.
Thank you so
Go
much.
back
Thank
to
you to your wife.
yes, yes. She's a beauty. Well,
Yeah.
it's my fourth and it's my last. She said somebody's gonna die before that marriage ends. Yes, ma'am. I'm gonna go back to Red Dead here, and
All right, Dick
that's
Warlock.
it.
Thank you again, and we'll keep in touch. Thank you for everything, and I look forward to
Yeah,
speaking with you again. Thank you again.
yeah. Take care.
You too. Enjoy the rest of your night, Dick.
You too. You shut it off, or I do. You do.
I can shut it off.
Good night, everybody.
Good night and happy Halloween.
Hey, thank you. You too, man.
Yeah.